Google cancels an all-hands meeting after threats of employee doxing. Micah Sargent from iMore is here to talk about a new social media tool for anonymous constructive criticism. And Facebook is sneaking into China. Georgia Dow joins me to talk about all of these tech stories and more on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1830, recorded Friday, August 11th, 2017. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Eero. Never think about Wi-Fi again with Eero's hyper-fast, super simple Wi-Fi system. And now the second generation Eero is tri-band and twice as fast. For free overnight shipping, visit Eero.com, select overnight shipping at checkout, and enter code TNT. And by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter promo code TNT to save 20% off any order. And by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully so you can be confident that you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started right now at rocketmortgage.com/TNT. Hello and welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we tell you everything you need to know about technology. I am Megan Maroney. Jason Howell is out today, but joining me in his place is this little puppet. Oh no, it's Georgia Dow. No puppet. Thank you very much, puppet. Georgia Dow from iMore. Thanks so much for joining us.
I know everyone was rooting for the puppet. I'm sorry. Everyone's disappointed now.
Well, you have to be the puppet. You're the puppet.
Oh, fair. I'm not a good venture. It's not going to end pretty. It's just...
Well, Georgia, of course, from iMore.com and anxiety videos, psychotherapist, a friend of the show. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's get started. Yesterday afternoon, Google CEO Sundar Pichai had intended to hold his regular Thursday all-hands meeting to discuss the gender controversy over the memo by James Damore. Pichai canceled the meeting 30 minutes before it was supposed to start because some employees' questions for the meeting had been released publicly, and other employees critical of Damore said that their personal information had been released onto the internet. Now, I've spoken about my thoughts on this memo and the aftermath, the firing of Damore on this show, and I spoke even more about it on the Download podcast on Relay FM. But Georgia, I am really curious about how you feel about this whole dust-up.
So, I read through the memo and like that could be an entire show all on itself. A lot of the things that he said did not really bother me. I think that it's important to take a look at our own biases and that too far to the left, too far to the right, accuracy doesn't deal with it. I think that the real problem was that he was setting a set of facts because he wanted to push a certain point and thought process ahead. And so that ends up being an issue to that. And it kind of reminded me of like in the 70s and 60s where they were trying to deal with race issues and trying to say that certain people, because of these studies, lead to it. And the problem is that they're not all accurate. Like, yes, more women deal with stress and come in for stress than men do. But does that mean that it's because more women actually feel stressed, or do more women feel comfortable to be able to talk about it and seek a therapist?
Yeah, I mean, I want to celebrate our differences. I do not think that men and women are exactly the same. And I go back and forth between feeling for this guy because I do think, speaking of puppets, I do think it does seem to me that he's being used as a puppet. But at the same time, he's saying, my words were taken out of context. But how much of this do you think is just a lot of miscommunication on everyone's part, on the media and Google and everyone else involved?
Yeah, I think that our levels of reactivity is really high. I think that this is a very hot, difficult subject for people that makes people feel really, really upset. The sad part is that he was talking about discussing these different issues, and immediately there was no discussion. And the fact that after Sundar also cancels a discussion on dealing with these issues seems to again be another step in the wrong direction, that we now don't talk about it. People that wanted to control the discussion ended up winning out, and we're not talking about it at all either way. How should we deal with this? What is diversity? We should also have diversity of viewpoints, and that means viewpoints that may not be ones that you agree with. Is it just to shut that up so that you don't get to hear it because it upsets you? But I think that Google is also under a lot of pressure because they're already dealing with a lot of issues of how do they treat women, equal pay, court cases, and this also deals with their brand. So I fully understand Google having to control what is their brand and what goes forward and what gets pushed through as a company manifesto.
And what about just normalization? Like, that's another issue that I feel like there's been so much talk about sexism. And the last biggest dust up about this was about sexual assault, with women trying to raise funds for their company and, being either sexually assaulted or sexually harassed. And so it just, so much of that, then this becomes normal. Like, there's a tendency to say, like, he just wrote a memo. Like, he didn't, try to sleep with someone who was trying to get their company off the ground. So can you talk a little bit from like a psychotherapist's point of view, like how we just seem to hear so much about this, it's just too much, and we start to normalize this behavior?
Yeah, it's because, with the internet, we don't hear about stories that are happy and fun. So we hear a lot of stories that are there to make us upset. And I think that, sexual assault does not only happen to women, and the same thing for harassment. I think that companies need to have something in place where they talk about how are they going to deal with it, what is going to be taken to the next level and why, so that everyone is clear. I think that everyone has probably been in really uncomfortable work-like situations where they feel uncomfortable and they may not feel comfortable being able to voice that they're uncomfortable with whatever behavior happens. So we need to have a really good understanding, and we have not in the past dealt really well with sexual assault and harassment in the workforce, especially with people that have more power than other people when we talk about company hierarchies. And that's really difficult because you still want to be able to date and meet people and have fun and joke around. We don't want to have it be that everyone is so reactive and upset that something that's told as something sweet or a joke might be misinterpreted. But we also don't want the opposite, where people are feeling uncomfortable and not wanting to go into the workforce because of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Chumley in our chat room says, please just let James Damore go away. And so for you, Chumley, we will, although I do not think he's going to go away, but I think we've probably said enough for now. This week, the Federal Communications Commission in the U.S. said Americans might not need high-speed internet access at home through cable or fiber, and that smartphone access is just fine. In fact, the commission said that all one needs is 10 megabytes per second download and 1 megabytes per second upload speeds. Critics of the FCC say this would cut off poor and rural areas even more than they already are. Ars Technica reports that there are hundreds of commenters complaining about the problems of mobile access, and that they want the FCC to help provide both mobile and broadband. Now, I'm interested, and I know this is a U.S. issue. How does this work in Canada? Like, how does your equivalent to the FCC help people get the access they need in rural areas?
So we try to go through, we have it actually, it's kind of a monopoly that's run by the government. And so we subsidize to be able to have like lines that are put through. But it still is that there's areas where the connections aren't really good, and we're dealing with it. And I think that this adds to the digital divide, right? Like, this is already, what could you do without the internet that is so important now is like jobs. You could work remotely, especially if you live in a remote area. But if we're talking about 10 megabits, it's ridiculous to think that that's going to be something that would be acceptable. And it's just going to cut people off even further from being able to really work, really deal with things, have access, and then we'll end up having people that'll be the haves and have-nots. And I know that it's exceptionally expensive, but the internet is now like a commodity that everyone needs and everyone uses. And you could say that that's good or that's bad, but it is the case of where we deal with it. We work, we deal with, we research, even for schooling. Without having access to a computer and the internet, it's a really big deal. And having slow access to the internet, even when I work on an older computer, I notice it, and it increases my level of frustration because I can't get my pages to load as quickly as I need them to. And that wastes time, which gives an do fair, like it's unfair for the people that have slow internet because they can't do things as quickly as other people. And so they end up saying, well, if it takes one person 6 hours to do a project and someone else 4, it ends up being another reason why you may hire the person that you don't have to spend as much money on.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talk a lot about just, internet access in rural areas, but I think in urban areas, it's also a problem. There's also a digital divide. And there, there are solutions to that. But yeah, I mean, I guess this is part of the FCC overhauling the subsidies designed to improve access. So I think Ars Technica said there were only 300 comments, which is way different than all the net neutrality comments. They said that, thousands of comments there. So it's a little known issue, and there's so much else going on in the news. But because
the other people can't comment.
That's true. They can't get there.
Right. Everyone else says fast and they're like, oh, this is good enough. Don't even worry because it doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
So I think that it changes where you're going to be located and how much you know about how this could affect you. And so because it's not going to affect everyone in comparison to net neutrality, that's going to affect everyone no matter where they are. And you may have a lot of knowledge about how that's going to deal with it. You're going to be much more upset. This is one of those things where only a few people are going to be really bothered by this, and they're still going to get something. It's just not going to be as good as what other people get. And so they kind of sweep it under the rug. And we have to also look at lobbyists and, who actually hires the people that are in the FCC, where are all of their links. It's a little bit more sticky than that.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there are other ways we can go about this problem, like in terms of, social services and job applications. If it was more mobile friendly, that would be another way that we could work to help this sort of thing. Because there's a lot of, applying for different services that it's very hard to do that on your mobile phone. You need a PC and more high speed internet access.
Yeah, and tethering really isn't the answer to it.
Mm-hmm. True. SoundCloud narrowly escaped demise with last-minute funding and the requirement for CEO Alexander Leung to step aside. In his place, 2 former members of the C-suite at online video service Vimeo will take his place. Leung will remain as chairman of the board. Billboard says the investment in SoundCloud is $169.5 million, which is the largest financing round in the history of SoundCloud. Are you a user of SoundCloud, Georgia?
No, I'm not, but I'm happy that it's there, but I don't really use it. I've used it probably like 3 or 4 times in my life in order to listen to something or to hear something that someone has put up. What about you, Megan? I
don't use it very often, but I recently learned that my daughter and her friends use it, the 14-year-olds, which I was surprised, but they do like to, we were discussing with a friend who likes to just find the latest music, what, everyone else is not listening to, that's her goal. And that's where you can find this, not on Apple Music. And that was also part of the discussion. We were looking at budgets, and I was thinking, gosh, do we really need to pay $15 a month for our family plan of Apple Music when, we have all our Amazon Echoes and, Amazon Music can't play everything, but can play a lot. And just also the idea of like teaching them, if you want a song that's not on Amazon Prime, then you have to buy it, that sort of thing. So, or get it on SoundCloud, apparently.
Right, or a record.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not a record.
No,
Fair enough.
No. Do you subscribe
the vinyl's not coming back.
Well, I think actually one of my boys does have a record player and has all my parents' old records. So yeah, it's pretty good. Like occasionally I'll hear like a little Kenny Rogers coming out of there. Sometimes it's the Beatles. It spans
that's great.
1965 to about 1985. It's pretty good.
Oh, that's amazing.
Do you subscribe to Apple Music?
Yes, I do.
Family plan?
And I love it. I love it. When my dad was in the hospital really sick, I was able to say, just play 1950s hits. And it was great. I didn't have to worry. It just played. I didn't have to find anything. So I love Apple Music.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do like it. Yeah, we're getting into a lot of Hamilton, and it's very nice because you can just listen to that whenever. But you can also do that on Prime. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
After the break, Micah Sargent is here to talk about the latest anonymous messaging app with a bizarre name. But first, let's take just a minute to thank Eero, the sponsor of this episode. With Eero, you can install an enterprise-grade Wi-Fi system in your home in just a few minutes. All you have to do is download the Eero app on your iOS or your Android device, and then it will walk you through each step of the process. It's quick, it's easy, It will cause you no pain. All those bad memories you have of trying to install extenders or modems or whatever, this is not that. You can easily create and share a guest network, know how many devices are connected at any given point, and check the internet speed that you're getting from your service provider. Eero is protected with state-of-the-art WPA2 encryption. It updates automatically, so you will have all the latest features and security at all times. Now, Eero is excited to introduce the second generation Eero and the Eero Beacon. Eero home Wi-Fi system started in early 2016, and during that time, they've learned from all the people that have had Eeros in their house. That's been hundreds of thousands of systems, people doing all kinds of things, all different devices in their house, streaming from different places, from phones, playing games. They've learned all that, and now Eero is smarter, faster, and more reliable. The new Eero second generation and Eero Beacon allow a customer to build a Wi-Fi system that's more perfectly tailored to their home than ever before. They offer more speed and range and the same high-quality, elegant design that people have come to expect. With the addition of a third 5 gigahertz radio, the second generation Eero is now tri-band and twice as fast as its predecessor, which lets you do more simultaneously in every room of your home. And with the addition of a new thread radio, Eero can connect to low-power devices like your smart lock, your doorbell, and all your other sensors. Pretty much anything that has an internet connection it can help you with. Expanding your coverage in any room is easy with Eero Beacon. All you have to do is plug it into a wall and then you're covered. You literally just plug it into the wall. It's also a nightlight. It's very nice. You can add as many Eero Beacons as you want. If there's an outlet, there is Wi-Fi. We've been using the newest Eero for about a week or so, and I've definitely noticed the difference. It gets internet access to those little corners where you need it. Need is a strong word, but sometimes I want to watch a movie in bed, and it's much easier now that I have the Beacon right in the plug right by my bed. For free overnight shipping, visit Eero.com, and at checkout, make sure you select overnight shipping, then enter TNT, the little box, that will make the shipping free. That's Eero.com, and the coupon code is TNT, free shipping. We thank Eero for their support. So yesterday on the show, Jason and I talked a little bit about Sarah. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a new anonymous social media messaging app that's intended to enhance your areas of personal strength. I mentioned that I'd seen various journalists trying out this tool designed for constructive criticism, and one of those journalists was Micah Sargent, who is here today to tell us what he thinks of Sarah and find out whether Dr. Dow thinks there's anything at all positive about this tool. Welcome back to the show, Micah.
Thanks for having me back. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, I'm so glad that Dr. Dow is here with us to help me through all of my issues with this app. We'll come across those.
So is it just a website or it's actually an app too?
Yeah, so it's an app. It's a website as well. I think they kind of push you to the app. Like that's where they really want you kind of communicating because they've got an official app in the App Store for both Android and for iOS. And whenever you kind of go to the About Us page and kind of learn a little bit about it, it's like, yeah, check out our official apps, but be careful because there are some who are trying to copy the app, and you could end up sharing some information on there that you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what it is.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a way for you to get anonymous feedback. And they kind of are pushing it, it seems like a way for employees to kind of like talk to their bosses or to hear feedback from your coworkers and in cases like with your friends. But it's really turned into more of a social media kind of deal where we've got a lot of people just using it to hear from their friends and kind of get compliments and get critiques and things like that. Whereas I really think that we're sort of trying to push it as a tool in business. It doesn't seem to be being used in that way. So you can find someone's profile. So in my case, just like my name.sarah or sarah.com and leave a constructive message. It says, I thought you could change that phrase there, but you can't. So you just type in whatever you want, you hit send, and then I get a push notification on my phone. And then I can, go into the app and see it. Now, this is kind of where I think it is a bit odd because whenever you get a bit of feedback, you can read it right there in the app and you can like it and you can delete it and you can flag it for like abuse. And that's pretty much it in terms of what you can do in the app. There aren't any replies right now. And Sarah is like the app says that maybe they'll eventually introduce replies if people have accounts and they use their account to kind of leave questions for other people. But the whole thing is the way that it's kind of spreading across social media is you can actually export an image, like a square image that has the question in the middle and it's styled up to look like a big question mark box. And so you can have the text in the middle. And so your goal, I guess, if you get questions, if you get feedback, if you decide you want to share it, then you just share that image and then put your reply above it. And that's kind of how it's kind of spreading across Facebook and Twitter especially.
So first thoughts, Georgia?
So one, Micah, did you get my messages?
Oh, yeah. All of those that were like, man, I really can't stand you. I'm just getting sick of having to hear you all the time. Yeah.
Those were my messages. You're absolutely right. That was what it is. I can't wait till I don't get your reply to my messages. There's so many problems with this. Okay, so first, I love that it says, please leave constructive feedback, because that will change everyone that wants to be abusive and mean to their bosses. They're like, oh, I was going to send something really mean to Micah, but then I didn't. Or maybe I did. Because it's anonymous. So whenever you deal with an anonymity and instant feedback, and this, you don't even have to worry about any repercussions, because the person on the other end cannot reply back. So to my hangman game, which I sent you, Micah, I will never know if you were able to figure out what that 4-letter word that ended with a T was. I'm sad.
Wait, so you really did send me a message?
I sent you two.
Oh, that's incredible.
He doesn't even read. That's a secret. That's his secret. It's like reading the comments. He doesn't read any of them.
He doesn't read the comments.
This is honestly this is something that I wanted to talk about, especially like I said with Dr. Dow, is the fact that I felt kind of weird about this whenever I first came across this app, because I have to say, there's been a lot of stuff going on this past week, and we don't have to bring it up, but some stuff with abuse and harassment and things like that in public places, in employment. And I did feel like the fact that I was curious and I felt okay and safe enough to go sign up for this app and say, hey, leave me some anonymous feedback. I sort of felt like I was coming from a place of privilege there, where I can imagine that some people wouldn't even want to be anywhere near this app, near this service, because of the fact that it opens them up to the potential for abuse. And so I have gotten, and I genuinely don't mean this as a brag, but I've gotten really lovely messages from people. And I haven't really shared those on, social sites to respond to them or to say thank you or anything like that, because it just feels a little odd. It almost does feel like, not bragging per se, but I just feel like it's unfair maybe to some people who, in this case, would be opened up to abuse. And Georgia, I think that you touched on that really well with the fact that there aren't repercussions, because this genuinely is an anonymous app. I can go on right now to anybody's Sarah account and leave something, and they wouldn't know that it was coming from me unless I was very particular about the words that I chose to use and maybe including some inside jokes or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people that may use this application may care more about what other people think, or they might be in very psychological difficult spots during their life, and so they're going on to this application, which it hurts us to hear mean, cruel, vicious things is really damaging to our psyche, and there's no repercussions. You can't reply back to say, well, why did you think that? What happened? So, and the other person, if it is abusive, there's really nothing bad that's going to happen to them. And so it could be very psychologically damaging to that and dangerous. And I think that part of it is that high, like it's kind of exciting and dangerous, kind of like a chat roulette. You don't know what you're going to get. And in that way, it feels kind of interesting and fun, and you kind of want to go there. But if you are hurt by this, if someone says something that really hits that soft spot for you, it's too late. You can't undo that. And it was interesting because when I was messaging you, Micah, I was like, ooh, I had this little evil glee of like, oh, he's not going to know. What am I going to send him? And so it's something that you don't know what other people's hurts and pains are with that. And so you have to be careful of what is already someone comfortable versus what is not, because often people don't talk about if I'm having a really difficult time or, my wife's just left me, I've just lost my job. And then they get one more message, and that could be that last drop in the bucket before everything overflows. And so all of these anonymous apps that seem like, they're trying to come from a good place, leave some constructive criticism. When you're really angry at your boss, it's probably not going to be, constructive, right?
Right. Megan, I have to ask, you have taught me about social networks. I remember you taught me all about Snapchat was streaks. And so I'm just curious, what's your take on this app here? Is this something that you'd see your do you like this app? You think it's ridiculous? I'm just curious to hear.
Well, if in terms of kids, I don't see what the difference between this and Ask FM, which I don't know if you've heard about this, but it's basically the same. It's very similar. It's just like, hey, ask me anything, tell me anything, and it's completely anonymous, and it has been used for bullying pretty much since day one. And it is very popular among teenagers, and it is a need of teenagers to what do people think of me? I want to know. I want to know. And then all of this is also, it's there forever. You could look up someone's Ask FM and see what people say about them. And, it may be true. It's probably not true. And it's there on the internet, in perpetuity. So in that sense, I don't really like it. But you said that it was designed for a workplace, and then I can see its use. It reminds me of those 360 reviews that people do, mostly executives. I've definitely heard of that as part of executive coaching. You go in and you have everyone around you. If you are at the top, then it's not really 360. But everyone give you feedback. If you're an executive and you really want to know, and you have it all be anonymous, and hopefully it is, I think that I've heard that's useful for executives to have people really giving them constructive criticism, people that work for them. But this is just released to everyone. So of course teenagers are going to probably use it.
And I think it's odd because this in and of itself, I hate to be the person who's talking about modern art and saying I could make that, but this in and of itself is sort of something that anyone could go out and create, especially the fact that there isn't any sort of built-in reply feature. It really is just like an anonymous Dropbox, so you could make an anonymous email, and send somebody an email, and it would work the same way as this does. The only thing that kind of sets this service apart, and I think is, again, what's making it spread, is the fact that you can hit that little share button and it pops out that little square image that you can then post to other sites. And because I think this was it was either a clever thing or it was a bit of luck, because you can't reply directly on the site. And that's what's got people sharing it onto Twitter and onto Facebook and other social media networks. So that was pretty clever because it's not built into its own little thing. It goes out and people see in the corner, I think it's in the bottom left corner, it says the name of the site. People get curious, they go there, they make their own, and then it spreads. So it's kind of latching on to social media sites that are already big, already have lots of users, instead of sort of building out its own little area. And by doing that, I think that it's spread pretty far. So it'll be interesting, A, if this sticks around, but B, if it ends up making its own little reply feature. And I do have to say, Georgia, I just refreshed all of my messages here, and I think you may have sent some other Micah Hangman message because I don't see any messages from you, unless you asked, if you mix Chihuahua and coffee, what do you get? Because
I might have sent that. I might have sent that. It's a question I just really want to know. So I was hoping for that, and then I might have sent another one, but maybe it didn't go through because I'd already sent the other one. I'm not sure. I got a little excited to it. I want to ask Micah, how does it feel when you open up the application and you don't know what you're going to get?
I'm going to be honest with you. This is like a bit of thrill, a bit of like the good kind of fear, like roller coaster fear and haunted house fear and scary movie fear. I see the message pop up and I'm like, ooh, you just get that little jolt of like, this could be bad, which I realize that's kind of to open yourself up to potentially experiencing something that's painful. Doesn't quite make sense, but at the same time, I was too curious and too interested to see what would happen that I decided to give this a shot anyway. And I genuinely wanted to know how it worked and what it was that was kind of the catch that had people so interested in it. But yeah, getting that buzz, and then seeing, okay, there's a message in there. I wonder what it's going to say. And so far they've been, pretty funny things that I've been able to reply to. And someone asked me like, what's my favorite song to dance to? That is not an easy question for me to answer. So that was actually a lot of fun where I spent,
it's not the Golden
10
Girls?
minutes like, it's not the Golden Girls. Although, that one's always kind of playing internally.
That is the same thing. I hear you. So Megan, does this make you want to go out and sign up?
No. No, not at all. I don't know. I don't have that in me. Like I feel like I can, I've heard enough on Twitter of what people think of me, who don't have my best interests at heart, I think. I've gotten constructive criticism, which was helpful, and lots of unconstructive criticism. But I guess, Micah, my question, you said you got mostly positive. Is that what you hear on Twitter? Because some people just don't really, and I have to say, I don't, it was bad a couple of years ago, but I don't see a lot anymore of really negative stuff on Twitter.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, is that similar to what you hear on Twitter, or do you get people that aren't as constructive on Twitter?
Okay, so I will say that for the most part, the only time that I hear from people on Twitter, like day to day, are people who are listeners of podcasts that I do or read the work that I write and then have questions or just want to offer some nice messages or what have you. However, occasionally, some of the things that I tweet are a little more opinionated or are about something that ends up sort of taking off and getting spread into different types of different areas of Twitter. An example of that is when I asked the different smart speakers with the different built-in assistants, the different smart assistants, if they were feminists. And I shared a video that showed how each of them responded. So it was the Google Assistant responding, it was Alexa responding, and it was Siri responding, and how each of those responded to that question. Well, that got retweeted to oblivion, and I got some pretty, not nice things said in public, in replies, and then also in messages, in direct messages and things like that. Because again, from a place of privilege, I do have my direct messages open because I've not experienced a bunch of abuse that would want me to, have those closed. And so, it occasionally crops up, but for the most part, no. I think, as George is saying, the more opportunity that people have to be anonymous, the more likely you are to experience some sort of abuse. And I'll be honest too, I used to work at a job where I was on camera every single day as an anchor for news. And I got a lot more creepy and scary and mean messages then than I ever have now, sort of a little bit more faceless, which is odd because usually when people can connect a person to their humanity, they're less likely to be horrible to them. And now without a face so much, you would think that there'd be less human connection there. But maybe Georgia can better explain that.
Well, it kind of depends, right? It kind of depends on, sometimes you reach a level of everyone knowing you that you no longer become human. It becomes you're this archetype and not even real. And that's why you end up with certain celebrities that take a lot of hate and abuse all the time because it's just the in-joke and you want to be part of the joke. To hurt this person, you don't really think about the effects of what that will be. And sometimes before, similar to you, Megan, I had more abuse when I first started going on to YouTube and making videos and being new at it. When I actually needed the most constructive criticism was often the most difficult. And then after a while with time, it's kind of died off.
Well, in terms of podcasts versus more visual mediums, audio podcasts, I do think that there's an intimacy there. Podcasters are in our ears, and so I think we feel more comfortable with them and make that connection in that way. But
that's a good point.
But I'm wondering, Georgia, if I may draw this conclusion or a conjecture, what Mike is basically saying is that when he just said, "Hey, talk about me," he got really good feedback. But when he expressed an opinion that someone had a different opinion, that's when he often gets attacked. So can we draw from that people really don't want to attack other people? They want to attack when their opinions, when they have a different opinion than someone.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. If you hold a very strong opinion of whatever that might be, and then someone else gives you a differing opinion or even offers a different way to look at this, we end up going through that cognitive dissonance. We want to protect our belief system. And that's the way that we kind of, the sails that tell us which way we're going to go in life. So if someone offers something that, you know what, you may be wrong about this, you feel a physical pain. If you're, into eating, all different types of meats, and you meet someone that's vegan, not even just vegetarian, but vegan, you may be very upset that someone else would do this because in a way, their way of life is saying to you that you're wrong. And that hurts, and you feel like an issue in your own ego strength. And that's why that if you kind of just come out and is like, hi, and you don't give any opinions to anything, the chances that, or if your opinions are very vanilla or mid round of the, kind of in the middle, people aren't going to be very highly reactive and get upset. You offer an opinion that is highly different than the norm, that's when you're going to have people not just angry, but viscerally angry, almost like you've attacked their belief system. And then you're going to have a lot of really hateful beliefs. And so it really depends on who you are as a person. And so, I don't have many very polarizing opinions, and so I don't get a lot of hate. But if I said something like, cats are not good for the earth or something like that, then maybe cat lovers would come at me, and I would have a lot of, pro-cat hate. And so you really do have to take a look at what you say. And that's why it's so difficult right now in our society to be able to have open discourse about different things, because maybe cats aren't good for the earth, but no one's going to talk about that because they get all of that hatred. And so we don't look at things because we feel threatened ourselves when we see something that is different from the way that we have a belief system. I actually like cats. I'm just going to say that before everyone sends me hateful messages. Now, Micah, I'm not so sure, but I like cats. There we go.
I plead the fifth on that one. I have to be careful because you're right. The pro-catters up there will come at me. I was just going to say, Georgia and I are polar opposites. We argue all the time. There's visceral anger between the two of us.
That's true. So that's true.
Other than that, though, I can get along with people.
Well, and it should be said that you didn't even, I have seen you express your opinions on Twitter, but what you said was that you just used the word feminist in an example in a story. So that's how far we've gotten. Just even using that word does make some people feel threatened.
Yeah, and I did the same thing. I did it again during Pride Month. I asked or I said to the different assistants, "Happy Pride Month," just to see how they would respond. There's no opinion. It's just, this is what I did. Here's what the video shows, how each of them responded. And there was also, of course, some blowback on that one as well, because, you can't, there are certain things that you can't say without attacking the belief system of others, as Georgia puts it. So
yeah, which is so sad, because we're on this planet together. We're trying to get to a place where we're all as one. Someone with a differing opinion of you does not actually affect your own way of life. It used to be really important when we lived in large groups that everyone felt similarly towards things, because you were going to be fighting other tribes. And so it became really important that we all had the same kind of ecosphere. The same thing that happens with companies like Apple and Google. They want to make sure that they have diversity, but it's diversity that is all kind of in the same idea of which way we're going to go forward to that. And that kind of colludes and keeps everyone together, but it also doesn't allow for differing viewpoints. And you can end up in a little bit of an echo chamber. So it's kind of sad that we've hit this because of Twitter and other social media. We've become a much more reactive society. Someone says something and they offend someone, really within hours, that could be the end of your life, your job, everyone's around you, and they look at you as a horrible person. And think about how many times you might have said something offhandedly without really thinking about it. And if that was blown out of proportion, what would happen to you?
Well, Web4562 in the chat room says you guys should settle your differences with arm wrestling.
Oh, well, I think Georgia would win. She would absolutely win. Georgia, you intimidate me. It's fine. I surrender.
Someone else says jujitsu.
Yeah,
but I do that without
my
socks on. If I do it without my socks on, so I would definitely win. So.
Sorry. For anyone not in on the joke, I really hate feet with all of my heart and soul and every bit and piece of me. So
careful,
Georgia knows that.
People,
she uses it against me.
People.
Yeah, you're right. Hit me up on Sarah with your. No, please don't. For the love of God, please don't.
Don't do that to him. We did that once as a joke to Micah, and I felt bad. I didn't feel really bad, but I felt a little bit bad. So don't do that to Micah.
Mostly you laughed. It's fine.
Well, Micah, thank you so much for joining us. Micah can be found on iMore. He can be found on Twitter at Micah Sargent. And, of course, Chihuahuas and coffee on the internet. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
After the break, the biggest tech question worth worrying about. Will Netflix manage to keep Marvel and Star Wars? But first, let's take a minute to thank Tracker, the sponsor of this episode. You've probably lost things. You look everywhere, couch, kitchen, pockets. That's the weird places. Then you look at the weird places, the bathroom, the fridge, the hamper. You're looking everywhere. You've been there. I don't need to recreate this for you because I know you've lost things and no one wants to be reminded because it feels horrible, especially if someone says, where did you leave it? That's the worst thing to say. You don't have to worry about that anymore with Tracker. 8 years ago, Tracker changed everything when they released their first tracking device. Now they've done it again with the all-new Tracker Pixel. With Tracker Pixel, you'll never worry about losing your things again. Tracker Pixel is the lightest Bluetooth tracking device on the market. Here's what you have to do. Get the Tracker Pixel, put it on whatever you tend to lose the most, keys, wallet, your cat, your dog. It's small enough to fit on even your most small items, your smallest items. When you misplace something that has a Tracker Pixel attached, use your smartphone and then a 90 decibel alert will help you find it in seconds. It even has a powerful LED light so you can find your item in the dark. If you lose your phone, you just press the button on your Tracker Pixel and then your phone will ring even if you have your phone on silent. You can even locate your item if it's miles away because every Tracker user is part of the largest crowd locate network in the world. And I'm telling you, it feels really good when you help someone else find something. I get notifications on my Apple Watch when I've helped with my, because I'm part of the network, when I've helped someone, it says, you just helped someone. And you think, oh, good, I can sit around and eat chocolate and watch Netflix the other day because I've done my good deed for the day. Tracker has a 30-day money-back guarantee, which means you truly have nothing to lose. Go to thetracker.com, enter promo code TNT to save 20% off any order. That's TheTracker.com, promo code TNT for 20% off. Now
Do they sell them by the dozen?
Do you have a dozen things that you lose?
I really need that. Yeah, I need to put it on my Apple Watch, so I can use my Apple Watch to find my phone, but then I could use my phone to find my Apple Watch. I need this.
That is the opposite way. Is hard. Yeah. You can buy as many as you want. According to the New York Times, Facebook is launching a new app in China under the name Colorful Balloons. Facebook has long wanted to convince China's 700 million internet users to start posting their puppy pictures online so they could advertise to them. But Facebook is almost entirely banned in China. Colorful Balloons doesn't bear the Facebook name or the branding, but it basically is the app Facebook Moments, which lets you group your photos according to where you took them and who's in them in order to easily share those photos with others and then to help Facebook know what you do and who you do it with. Colorful Balloons was put out by the company Youg Internet Technology. I did not make that up. Youg. Y-O-U-G, which maybe isn't pronounced huge, but that's how I pronounce it. So you are not on Facebook, right, Georgia?
I'm not. This doesn't. Even calling it something cute like Colorful Balloons would not tempt me in order to be able to go into it. Though I'm sure a lot of people that are banned from Facebook, this would be their way of being able to share things.
Right.
So would this appeal to you if you couldn't use Facebook, Megan?
That's a good. I haven't thought about that. I use the Facebook Moments app, and I liked it, except for nobody that I try. They have to install the app, and it's separate from Facebook. And whenever I tried to use it, none of my friends wanted to install the app, so then I gave up. And it's not unlike.
That's sad. Using Moments alone is kind of sad, right? You feel bad.
Very sad.
Yeah, fair. So I get that.
Yeah, it is sad. But it's useful in that, you do go somewhere and then, you take a big giant group picture and then you don't want to say can you take one with my phone too? And you just assume you'll get those pictures from those people. But how often do you ever do it? So it's nice to automate this. But yeah, and it's also interesting that, Mark Zuckerberg worked very hard to sneak this app in to China. Everybody wants to get into China. So I wonder how long they're gonna last in China? Because I mean, I think it's pretty, the things that, you know, the Chinese government are upset about and nervous about, keeping Google out and part of, you know, iBooks out. And I don't think that would be an issue with happy balloons or colorful balloons or whatever it was called.
It would all depend on how much control they would have, depending on what people have. If it's only images, then that would probably be okay. If it's images that you could add words to or text to, then that might be something that they would be a little bit more wary of. Mm-hmm. And then where does all the data go? Does China have access to this versus do they not? So I think that it's one of these situations where China wants to have the most control over what information is, you know, propagated.
Mm-hmm. And here's an update on a story that we reported yesterday, that Jason and I reported, that Consumer Reports pulled its recommended rating from all Surface products, all Microsoft Surface products. PC World points out that their complaints about reliability came from surveys of earlier Surface devices. That's the Surface 3, the Surface Pro 3, and the early Surface Book. Consumer Reports admits their methodology isn't 100% accurate, but they stand by their report and cannot recommend any Surface products until they see better reliability data. So I thought this was interesting. I know you don't use a Surface. I know you're a MacBook gal like myself. But what I found interesting about this story was that part of the popularity of the Surface came from all these glowing editorial reviews. So it's people that had the Surface for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you know they're a certain kind of person. They're a journalist. They love technology, and they're sick of the MacBook, which is just the same thing. So they liked things about it. But then when you really looked into the reliability, whether it held up with normal people for a couple years, people were unhappy with it.
Yeah, it seems like they went out with, you know, glowing reviews before they had really spent enough time to test it out. And then it's weird. You end up with this punitive side where now they're saying that, no, we're not going to be able to, promote any Surface products at all. Seems really wrong and punitive on the side of Consumer Reports, which makes, I think that it goes to people not trusting Consumer Reports as much as they would without that. How did you feel about the fact that they said that they're just not going to now anything that even stuff that they might feel really comfortable with? It's almost like they were embarrassed that they had said this and now Microsoft is going to pay.
Well, yeah, I don't know what I think about that. I think that they are painting it with a pretty broad brush, I think. Leo gave me his Surface Book that he was done with, and I've tried to use it, and it's fine. Like, there are some great features about it. You know, the screen pops off of the keyboard and, you know, becomes a tablet. And Consumer Reports specifically said that they got more reports about that being, you know, something that broke more quickly. But it's just, I'm so used to Mac that it's just difficult to even, I don't know, I have a visceral feeling when I try to use Windows, and it's not good.
Yeah. You have to relearn things, and you have a comfort level where you can use things, you know how they work, and it works effortlessly. And it's stressful when you have to learn a new set of products and a new set of things that were at one point totally intuitive, and now you press 2 buttons and the opposite thing or nothing happens. And so also the amount of time that you have to spend to do projects, and time is one of our most valued commodities, becomes a real issue. And that's why, even though Renee actually switched me from my Windows down to Apple products, but once I switched, which was a little bit difficult, that was it. I was in, and now I'm here, and it would be really a lot of work for me to be able to switch again. But you don't think that they were being overly punitive? I'm taking it a little bit too far.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that I think it's my takeaway from this story is that these were people that actually had the device, and they said that it needed to be repaired, versus, you know, just a lot of people in the chat room are saying, like, I don't trust the reviews from Consumer Reports. But these aren't reviewers. These are people. These are surveyed people. And maybe this audience, I think the Consumer Reports audience, and probably the people that respond to surveys, probably skews older. I don't know if that has anything to do with whether a device breaks or not, or how you use it. But I mean, Microsoft said that they stand by their product, and they say that their reliability scores are way higher than what Consumer Reports says. So of course they're going to say that, but
yeah, they kind of have to. But they had said that it's like less than 25%. That still seems like a lot.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, that's not. Well, maybe you shouldn't be putting that out. Just say it's less than what they reported. Because I was like, oh, less than 20. Like, no, 1 in 5, it's too many. That's too many for me. So.
Well, I mean, I think, we're both Apple people, we're both iPhone people. And so we are biased. Our biases are showing all over the place. But I do think that there is this tendency of people to say, like, look at this Android phone. It's just as good as an iPhone. And, because they're just sick of the iPhone, just sick of the same thing. But I mean, what Jason Howell, the Android guy, even says, like, he's heard lots of phones that, people say are fantastic. And then a year later, they don't work at all, and so I think there is this, and maybe just because there are more, like there's a more percentage, there's a higher likelihood that your Android phone won't work anymore because there are lots of different Android phones. But I do think that there's this, we go crazy as tech reviewers over like, this is the new thing and it's great. But then what happens a year or two later when regular people are still using these devices and they're not working?
Yeah, which is a huge problem. Because a lot of people can't afford to upgrade and they might not have any warranty on these devices because technology really, really expensive and we use them a lot. I don't know how many times I've dropped my MacBook Air. Thank goodness it still works. But it becomes an issue, and that's why a lot of people go to places like Consumer Reports to try to get a product that they're going to enjoy but also is going to be reliable. And I think that that's where kind of the backlash that Consumer Reports felt was because of that, because if people were like, well, wait, what happened to this? And then they threw that back at Microsoft and said, we're just not going to. I think it was a little punitive.
Mm-hmm. So is it going to make you buy a Surface?
No, it won't. But I do. I still like, I have Word on my Air. And so I love a lot of the software that goes with Microsoft software. And I use Excel and PowerPoint. And so it's interesting. So I'm kind of like in the mid of ecospheres to both of those, but, no, not yet.
And it should be said that Microsoft obviously is an older company, but they're very new to hardware. And that's what they said, when they were defending themselves against Consumer Reports, saying, we learned a lot and we've gotten better. So to your point, yes, maybe Consumer Reports was too harsh.
Yeah.
Well, now to the most important question we're all thinking of. Earlier this week, Disney announced that they'll be starting their own streaming service and pulling all of their movies from Netflix. Don't get me wrong, I will miss Moana, but what I really care about... I really care about Marvel and Star Wars, and I want to know if I can get them on my Netflix. According to early reports, Netflix was still in negotiations to keep Marvel and Star Wars movies. And today, Reuters reports that Netflix is, quote, still in discussion to keep the movies after 2019. A spokesperson said the two properties could go to Netflix or to another streaming service, or they could keep them for themselves. So do you have Netflix, Georgia?
I do have Netflix.
All the way in Canada?
I think that I do. I know it's one of the few things we actually have here. It's sad. But I think that it would be, again, on Disney's side, like, I think that it would be smart of them to then pull it, because that would be one of the few reasons that people would then get Disney's streaming service. Because if not, a lot of people will already have the DVDs, or they've, all of the old Disney movies, a lot of people already have, and they'll be like, okay, well, now I'm going to, just upload everything to my computer so that I can be able to watch it at my leisure. But if they have Star Wars and Marvel, I can see a lot of people deciding to go on. So I guess it would depend on how much Netflix is willing to pay to be able to hold on to those licensing.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever used Disney Anywhere, the Disney Anywhere service?
No, I haven't.
But okay. But you know how it works. Like you buy a physical, like you buy the DVD and then you can enter a code and watch it on all your devices. So I said I found it difficult. And I have to say, I don't know why. I thought I tried it early on and I couldn't figure it out. But we got some feedback about our original discussion of the story. And Phil writes, you seem to dismiss Disney Movies Anywhere as complex and not useful. This has been the opposite of my experience. I have 3 kids in the prime Disney, Marvel, Star Wars demographic and have been conscientious about buying Disney movies that include the digital copy. We still use the physical media for long car trips to see relatives, but once I enter the digital code for the movie in my app and on my iPhone, it's available on all the other various iDevices in our households. So, Phil, thank you, Phil. So I apologize. It might have been just the time of day when I tried it, or that I had bought the Disney movies before. I don't know. I'll go back to Disney Anywhere because we have a lot of DVDs, and I would like to watch them. And not a lot of services do let you buy something and then watch it on any device you might have.
Yeah, and it's nice if you have young children that love a certain movie and you want to watch it. I think that I'm on the other side. I watch very few movies more than once. Like there's probably 10 movies that I would want to watch more than once in my lifetime, or maybe 15, but that's it. So once I've seen a movie, even if I love it, and I loved Moana, and Hey Hey, the little chicken cracks me up, so I would watch him. I have a photo of him on my phone. He's just the most adorable thing. But I saw it once, I'm good with that.
Oh, really? But how do you know all the How can you sing all the songs if you only saw it once?
Oh, well, I will get the music.
Okay.
That I will do.
Okay, good.
I will get the music, and then I will sing it until my children say, please stop, Mom. Okay. Please stop. I'll start here. We'll sing a song. No, just joking.
Well, we also got some feedback about a story that you and I discussed last time you were on. Joey writes, as we talked about before, I teach electronic safety to kids from a police standpoint, and I was kind of stuck. Lisa Beyer gave me a few ideas. It's hard to reach kids and explain to them that what they do now will impact them later. I try to explain to them that when they are my age, more than half of their lives will be cataloged on the internet. But when you are 13, it's hard to see into the distant future of your 20s. So after we talked, he also says, this year we're also adding a lecture for parents, and the best advice I can give is to just have regular conversations with your children. They must be comfortable talking with you about everything if you want them to talk to you about their online personalities, the same things that we did in the deserted parks and the houses when the parents weren't home, our children are experiencing online. So I actually interviewed Lisa Beyer after you and I talked about her story. She did give us a lot of good suggestions, which were helpful. But I think that digital footprint is really hard to convince a kid that it's important.
Yeah, especially since our prefrontal lobes are not developed until we're 24. And so then because of that, let's add hormones to the mix to that, and the amount of fun and how everyone else is there. And the job of teenagers is to form their own social groups. And so that's really important, and more important than a parental rule. So when your kids hit the teens, their friends are going to be more important than you are, which is painful to hear, but it's the truth. And so if you're already allowing your children on social media, which if you can wait for as long as possible, that would be really helpful, because hopefully they enter it when they're kind of past the most hormonal stages of their life, and they're kind of looking at things a little bit more further. But one of the things that you can do is just talking to kids about it is probably not going to do anything. They're going to kind of, we know more about technology than you do. And so they're not really going to want to listen. You want to make sure that you can kind of strike them at the limbic system. And that would mean having stories of how people's lives have actually been affected by having things on social media and what the repercussions are to that. Or maybe even you have one of your own stories of how it's affected you. And so that you would want to be really frank, a little bit more visceral, but nothing that would be traumatic for them, so that they understand that there's a consequence to this that's real and tangible. If you can do that with your child in a really nice, open manner, not in a way that you're trying to be controlling, and listen to them, then they may understand what forever really means. Because if not, people think about digital media as something that's, ephemeral, and it's going to go away and they're never going to have to worry about it. And they don't really think about people. If you want to run for public office or even for a job, they may be looking around in your past and then use that against you or embarrass you. And a lot of people now have, their photos that have been given to someone else, and then it's spread around the school, and they're harassed, and the amount of effects that they have to deal with that, which is really, really serious. I see a lot of people in my office that have been, almost post-traumatic stress levels of difficulty because a photo that they thought would be kept private with someone that they truly trusted ended up being spread around and used to mock, harass, and make fun of them. And it leaves very strong emotional scars, and it really affects your levels of trust. And so it's a huge issue.
Yeah, and I mean, Joey's recommendation, like, you have to have conversations with your kids. They have to be comfortable sharing with you. I definitely believe that, but it is so much harder than it sounds. And I think, listening is the most important thing you can do. And, I like to talk as you know. So it is really a challenge to just not step in and say, well, like those teachable moments, well, when I was, and I also really, it's different than the way that you interact with most other people in your life. Like they're not your friends. They're not, they can, say it's their job to separate from you and to say what can be really hurtful things. And you just have to accept it. You don't have to accept them being, totally sassy and rude, but in a way, it's just like you can't take it personally.
Yeah, you want to be a part of their life. Mm-hmm. You want to know what they're up to, what they're dealing with, and then they might feel more open to say, if, I showed this picture and I don't know what to do about it, so that it doesn't get to the level of trauma and hurt that they don't know how to handle it. Or, even the worst case scenarios of what would you do if, something that you had shared that you thought was private was then spread around. What would you do, so that they know that they could come to you or just someone else that they feel comfortable with? And a lot of people don't really know what their children are up to on social media, and we're not taught. This is something that's so new. We're not taught how can you monitor, how can you, restrict access of what your children would be able to put on and not, and have that discussion of, if we're in the bathroom, I don't want you using your phone or even bringing it in just in case you have sent a photo out of something that would be inappropriate or of a family member, because they see on the, YouTube and on websites, these things that it's really funny, this person that, had their pants fall down, or someone having a panic attack, and everyone's laughing about someone else's trauma. They're not really empathizing with how hurtful and harmful it is for that person to have to go through that. And so having that discussion is also really important, because it always really deeply hurts me when I see someone that is going through their own personal crises on, on the internet, and someone else is using that then to just make more internet points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is hard. And I have to say, like, taking pictures of yourself, naked pictures or whatever, like, and there's a lot of people in the chat room who mean well, just saying, just stop doing it. Just don't do it, kids. And that just reminds me of Nancy Reagan, like, just say no to drugs. Like, it's just not that easy. It's so much more complicated than that. And, the idea of, like, if you are underage, that's illegal, and like policing it, making it, punitive damages. I feel like that doesn't work either. So it's but there definitely needs to be some sort of accountability if someone's shared something that's private and you're then sharing it with other people. I think that is something that we should have really strict laws to keep other people's privacy, and the discussion of, what you share with someone else. I'm really careful about, one is because I'm a psychotherapist, but I'm really careful about even private pictures that I take with people. I'll go to a party and we're having a lot of fun and I'll take all kinds of photos, but I'm really careful of not sharing those in social media because I'm not sure how someone else feels about that. And some people might think I just don't have any friends. I do have a few friends, but I just don't share it because I don't know how someone feels unless I've already asked them, is this okay if I post it, and what does it look like, and how do you feel comfortable with that? Because, sometimes you might think they look really, really cute and they might think this is horrific. Mm-hmm. It's hard.
It's hard.
Well, after the break, speaking of posting pictures, the richest man in the world just joined Instagram. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage, the sponsor of this episode. If you've ever gone through the mortgage experience, you know that it was not keeping up with the times. It was pretty dated. What it needed was a client-focused technological revolution, and that's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage gives you the confidence you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. It's simple. It allows you to fully understand all the details and be confident that you're getting the right mortgage for you. It's convenient. They have trusted partners that allow you to share your financial information with Rocket Mortgage at just the touch of a button. It's also powerful. So if you're looking to buy your very first home, congratulations. If you're buying your 10th home, congratulations to you too. Rocket Mortgage is able to perform thousands of your calculations in just seconds based on your income, your assets, your credit. And then Rocket Mortgage takes all those, they spin them around and analyze all of the home loan options that you qualify for, and then find the one that's just right for you. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. If you want to get started, all you have to do is go to rocketmortgage.com/TNT. That's rocketmortgage.com/TNT. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support. TNT's fan of the day is Troy M. Wolf on Instagram, who posted this photo of his tech setup. in his car. It looks very complicated. And thank you for listening, Troy. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup, post it to Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it. Someone else who is on Instagram, Bill Gates. This is Bill Gates on the platform, and so far he's made only one post, but he knows how to post multiple pictures on it from his trip to Tanzania. Pro tip, slideshows on Instagram are much preferred to posting an individual post for each photograph. I mean, you're not on Instagram, right, Georgia?
No, I am, but I'm not. I don't think I'm following. I might be following Renee. I don't know. I'm not really on it. There's only so much media I can, like social media, that I can keep up with. So I like kind of Twitter spam, and then I'm off for another while. Though I think it's great. I think that it's great that he's there. They do so much good, Melinda and him. So it's wonderful to see them, and they can show what wonderful things they're doing, and hopefully inspire other people to, reach out and help the world become a better place. So I'm excited for him to be there. I think he'll do a lot of good.
Yeah, and he's doing it by posting that one picture in a slideshow, as opposed to spamming a bunch of people in one post. So otherwise, it's just like you see the same pictures of the same people. And I was going to say, I was talking Renee's good. He has good Instagram etiquette. You can tell.
Renee's an Instagram beast. That's true.
But he spaces them out. He's not.
He does, and they're different. But that he really works on his photography skills. So.
Right. Oh yeah, and he posted that picture. Did he ask you before he posted that picture of you on Instagram?
Yeah. Well, I always know that if he's taking the photo, he knows that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. He tweeted it as well, so I had my little picture with my son's Mr. Mime hat on.
Oh, I meant the one where you were using the water, the bounce feature in iOS 11.
Oh, yes,
with the water.
Yes. Yeah, that one too. Sorry, now everyone knows about the Mr. Mime hat that I was wearing.
Georgia, it's always a pleasure. Show it. Find it, Anthony. It's always a pleasure for you to talk to you.
Thank you.
imore.com and anxiety-videos.com. And for people who haven't heard and are interested in the videos, tell us a little bit about what those are.
So they're videos, I think, that a lot of people are shy to be able to treat anxiety, depression, or parenting or sleep issues by going in to see a therapist. And so this was our way to be able to get like a session with a therapist that you could have, but bring them home so you can watch it on your computer in your own privacy and be able to treat yourself. So pretty much it's myself and Sandra going through what we would go through on like a session 1 of an anxiety treatment, and then session 2, what you would do. And if you're dealing with sleep issues, what would we actually tell you, and the homework that we would give to you, which so that you can help yourself.
Awesome. I know that there's still some stigma around therapy. So it's good that this exists. And there's also just, it's the appointments are often in the day when people are working. And so, and this, the prices are on there too. And it's definitely less than you would pay to go to a therapist.
And you can listen to it many times, right? Because I have some people that they're in therapy with me, but they still get the DVD and they can re-listen to it over and over again, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Will people get the same by just listening to this podcast, or do you think, no? I was going to say, do you think my anxiety that pervaded this whole podcast will not be as bad?
Yeah. Not,
Don't tell me. I'm going to make a Sarah account, and then you can say it there.
That's perfect. Okay. Sign up. Send me a link.
Georgia, thank you so much for joining us. We'll hopefully see you soon.
Thank you so much, Megan.
Take care.
Bye.
TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 23 UTC at twit.tv/live. And you can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. You can also hit us up on Twitter. We are at Tech News Today TV. And we would love for you to subscribe to our show. That's twit.tv/TNT. And if you're interested in other Twit shows, go ahead and subscribe to those too. It's twit.tv. You can find all the ways to subscribe. And if you want to tweet at me just to give me constructive feedback, I'm at Megan Maroney. And thanks to our technical director, Anthony. Thanks to Patrick for helping out in the studio. Thank you to Kevin for editing the show. And thank you to you for talking tech with us. We'll see you Monday.